This is what we're gonna get today. So hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Passy and this is Neighborhood Bookworm. And today we're gonna be talking about the books I've read recently. We're gonna be doing the most recent reads that I've read, and there's some good ones and there's some duds. But we're gonna be doing that, and it's gonna be from lowest rated stars to the highest rated. So we already got a favorite of the year in this pile. So let's start. We're gonna start with the DNF. I started it. I hated it. I got about I can hear you, but I won't. Anyways, the first book that I have is the sequel to Children of Bones called Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I DNF'd this at about 100 pages. I hated it. It's very different. It's very jarring to the first book. In the first book, Zelly was she's very loyal. She was really close to Mari and her brother and stuff like that. And in this book, it's like a complete 180. She changed completely. She meets these new people and she just starts acting like not like herself. And I didn't like it. And I just felt like it got to a point where I don't know who was supposed to be the good guy and who's supposed to be the bad guy, because I was like, you're both doing something stupid. So like it got to a point where Zelly's people killed, not Zelly's, like the rebel group, they kill I don't know if that's a spoiler, so I'm gonna put it right here. Zelly's people, they burned the stock of like feeding the village, and then like the king's people killed a child. And I was like, am I supposed to like be happy and feel like neither of you are doing anything good, neither of you on the good side? So like I don't agree with either of you, so like I'm just gonna be like, no ma'am, no thank you, no ham, no cheese, no bacon, no thank you. All right, so the next book I read, this DNF, it's not fair to the book, but I had to DNF it. It's this one. It's The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I started reading this. I thought it was like a one continuous story. It turns out it's just little short stories. And I feel like when I started reading this, first of all, I was in the middle of a readathon. So I was like, I have less than 24 hours to read a book. I didn't read this because I started this, I DNF'd it because it was just really depressing, honestly. And I just didn't want to read it. I'm gonna read it in the future, but for right now, I think I'm gonna have to like set aside, like read one story a night for like a period of time and finish it. But it's not big, but it's like a lot of stories. I got 4 or 5 stories and I just lost interest, so we'll just see how that goes the next time I try it. I read a book, a little number called Pink Petals. It's it's sapphic. It's a sapphic short story with just smut. It was badly written smut. I read it because I thought it would be funny. I was scrolling through Amazon Kindle edition, as you do at work, and I got to this and I was like, that's interesting. It was bad. It was like 27 pages. And was it a doozy? It was funny on how bad it was. There was grammar issues. There was pronouns. They weren't using the right pronouns. There was like, oh, she, and then one random he, and then there was like a weird teacher relationship dynamic, and then there was a weird there was 2 accounts of students sleeping with teachers, which is unethical, but no, it's not right. It's okay. It's the hotness of it, right? There was also the character recorded sexual intercourse without the people's consent to use as a blackmail in future, and I was like, and the smut was just bad. Okay, so I forgot to talk about this in the video when I was filming, but okay, so I also read the June Boys for the month, and it was a doozy, right? So it's about the Gemini thief that steals boys, and like for the past 11 years they've been stealing boys, and they always come back in the end. But this one time, this boy goes missing, and the main character, her cousin went missing, and it's about her trying to find out who the Gemini thief is. And I rated this 1 star. it was really bad. There was one part, the plot made no sense. There was many characters that it was confusing, and there was a part in it where they were doing like flashbacks to the they was doing flashbacks and like journal entries, and they were really confusing because I didn't know what time they were in. And there was also things that the main character was talking about that she shouldn't have had any clue of what she was talking about in the book, but she knew, and it just really confused me. It was just bad. Like the way the plot wasn't going, it wasn't like consistent. It just made it look like it had no one that proofread it. And I just didn't like it. So it's too bad. I was really excited about this, but I ended up rating it 1 star. I also read Death of Field, which is the first book in the Last Chance series, and it's about this guy named Shane and this other guy named Van. And like Van used to bully Shane and be when they were kids, and then Van comes back to the town to after his father's death to help his mother like mourn and stuff. And then they end up falling in love. And then I rated it 2 stars. Here's the thing, it was written, you can tell with the smut scene, you can tell it was written by like straight, and it's like nothing, I don't hate on straight authors writing queer romance, but it makes me uncomfortable because the way that we used it was like some like low-key misogynistic and like patriarchal like standards in there. And the word fingered is like he fingered his ring, he fingered his collar. You know, my dirty mind's like, stop, because my mind goes to the opposite direction. I was like, fingered, no. There was also the smut scene wasn't bad. It wasn't hot. The smut scene went bad, but they weren't like good either. I was like, okay, it's smut. I ended up skipping them by like 50%. I just skipped, even like before 50, by like 45%. I just skipped all the smut scenes and I just didn't care. I was like, okay, then let me just get it over with. Why did I finish it? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I got it for free on Kindle, so I read it. Thank you. I did a video reading Rainbow Rowell books. I have them spoiled throughout this because it was a range. She doesn't have range, but the ratings have ranges. I won't talk about it much, but you can watch the video if you want to. One of the books I read was Fangirl, and it's about this girl named, it's been over a month, don't judge me, named Kath, and she's like a fan of this fictional series called the Simon Snow series or something like that, and she writes fan fiction for them. And she goes to college, and her and her twin sister are really close, so when she goes to college, her sister basically like pulls apart from her and she's just left by herself. Maybe it's just me, but I realized that I'm not really a big fan of like romance centric books. So throughout all of this, I was waiting for the plot to begin, only to find out, the plot is the romance. And I was like, wait a minute. So I didn't have a good time, and the story was like very Harry Potter, but I'll talk more about that later. For Fangirl, I rated that one 2 stars. If you don't know what that song is, it's like the SpongeBob song of when they're like doing foolishness. Okay, so the next book I read is a horror thriller, I believe. It is a horror thriller. No, it's a thriller mystery. It's this book called The Lies We Told. It's set in suburban, wherever the fuck. It's about what is this girl? What's her name? Carla? Oh, that's how much I cared about this, because I was close. It's Clara. Clara's boyfriend Luke disappears, and then as she tries to find him, it turns out he was a scumbag. He was an actual fucking trash. But that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is about this mother that has this daughter. It's about Clara fighting her boyfriend, but it's also about like there's this other side story of this mother and like her sociopathic daughter, and it was a lot of stuff. It wasn't very entertaining. I hated the ending. It was anticlimactic. The villain, I had wished that it was in her perspective. And the last chapter of the book, it's in the perspective of the antagonist. I had wished this has been a fact throughout the entire book, because then it would be really interesting, because I want to read a book that goes inside of the villains, the antagonist's head, and sees what their motives are and things like that. I want to know that. This was just like middle class white people talking about their scumbag of a son and scumbag of a partner going missing and wondering what happened, with a little bit of sociopathic tinge in there. I hated it. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for anybody. In the ending, I was annoyed. I was like, whatever. Am I supposed to be happy that it's like, it was like kind of an open ending, and I'm like, am I supposed to be happy? Even the guy, the Luke, the guy that was missing, even his best friend was garbage, and like, I knew this, but like, I was like, wow, there's levels, guys. There's levels. So the next book I read is science fiction, thriller, and mystery rolled up in one. And I was like, yeah, I fucks with it. I thought I was gonna fuck with it. So I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It's about this guy Jason, and it's about like, sir, I'll wait. It's about this guy Jason, and I'm sorry if you hear my cat in the background the entire time. It's gonna be like that the entire time, so I'm sorry. But it's about Jason, and he gets kidnapped one night from going home from like the bar. He's not having a good time because he's not in here with me. Jason gets like taken on his way home from the bar, and then he goes into like this entire different universe where he's apparently this like really like famous guy, and he followed his dreams and stuff like that. I don't know if it was a bad thing that I knew what the situation was when I got in, because I knew it was out to the universe. And I think it's a good, I read this in one day, so it's a good book to read in one day nonstop. The second half was wild. It talked about like out to the universe, and yeah, that was like a mindfuck. I always found like science fiction stuff about like time travel and alternate universes were just like a mindfuck for me. And like, I was like, whoa, that's so cool, bro, because that's not my area of expertise. I mean, what is my area of expertise? Anyway, I didn't care for the character. The character was 2D. I didn't care. At the end, it just got ridiculous. I'm like, can this man just like get his shit and then like get out? Like, in the end, it just got ridiculous, and I was like, I just wanted it to be over. And I'm like, yeah, I know I should have seen this coming, but like, I want it to be over. So I ended up rating this 2.5 stars. Another book that I read, it's a graphic novel, this one, and I don't think it's the graphic novel's fault. It's my fault for being an idiot, but like, that's always. Let me stop being mean to myself. So I read Shuri, the first book in the, I read this for Blackathon, and it was the first book in the Shuri. It's like a it's Black Panther's sister, and then apparently Black Panther goes missing, and then she has to find him. And I think the reason why I gave this 2 stars was because of the fact that I didn't know much about Black Panther, and I didn't care because I didn't know who these characters are. Yes, I watched Black Panther when it came out in the theater back in like 2016, 17, 18. I think it was 2018 when it came back in like February of 2018. I was like, yeah, fuck this shit, I love it. But I don't remember anybody. I don't know. My knowledge of Black Panther only consists of clips that I've seen of gifs on Tumblr from when the movie came out like 3 years ago. I mean, that was good times, but like, I didn't like this because I didn't know much about Black Panther, and I think that really like took away from my enjoyment of this. So it's not this book's fault, it's my fault. All right, so this book, what's the other, oh yeah, so the next book I read was like, it's like this book that's really popular back when it came out in like, when it came out in 2016, it got a movie and everything, and I read The Sun Is Also Starred by Nicola Yoon, and it's about this girl named Natasha. She's Jamaican, yeah, and she's getting deported in like less than 24 hours. And there's also Daniel that has like an interview going on, and he doesn't care, he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and like Natasha's fighting to stay in America because she has to be like deported. Again, I didn't care for the characters. I saw the cover for the movie, And like, am I the only one that wanted to be like a darker skinned character? But I'll stop. It's like light skin washing. It's like washing, and I was like, oh, I wanted a dark skin actress, but that's a battle that's already fought and lost because the movie came out. The thing, I rated this 2 stars because I don't care for romance. That's nothing on romance. I'm just an idiot that wants action because I have a short attention span in books sometimes. So I read this in the span of 1 day though, so I'm like, it's not that bad. It had insta love, which I don't really like. Insta love, it made me not care for the characters. Like, my favorite kind of books are like angsty and like slow burn, enemies to lovers, enemies to friends to lovers. Well, actually no, not enemies to friends to lovers, friends to lovers, slow burn, angsty romance. That shit, ooh. In my fan fiction reading days, I was like, my shit. I was like, yes, angst. You want me to I love to have the urge to throw my phone across the room because of a romance. I'm like, because in the end when they get together, it's so satisfying. Yes, and this was like insta love, and I was like, it just made me not care for the characters, made me like I had to suspend my disbelief. There was like a whole thing about here about like, oh, him trying to teach her like, oh, true love is real. And still, I was like, oh God, here's another one of those. It was like a talk about true love and finding the one and knowing who was the one because you met him. And I was like, get the fuck out of here, bitch. You're 16. Grab a fucking seat. That's not to discredit saying teenagers don't know what love is and they can't find true love, but I'm saying it's unlikely. And we're all hot messes at 16, 17 years old. So don't sit here and tell me you found true love. You're like, oh my God, it was true love. The guy's a poet, so he's like a hopelessly romantic. And I'm like, fuck romance, bitch. Fuck romance. That's not to shit on romance. Alrighty. Having a concise video for once feels nice. Okay, and then I read another book that was really popular last year. It's the second book by this author, and it's called and it is Sorcerer of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I think the first book was like An Enchantment of Ravens. I didn't read it. One thing I did like, I don't really like YA series, not YA fantasy series, right? I can read YA adult fantasy series. I can read that. I can read a YA adult fantasy. I can read oh my God. Can I speak? Thank you. I can read a YA. I can read an adult fantasy series. That's fine. I don't usually like YA fantasy series because there is always a love triangle, which I hate, right? And I like the fact that this was a standalone. And this is about this girl named Elizabeth. And it's about her, like, this scandal happens. She works at one of the great libraries, and she protects like enchanted books and stuff like that, protects them from sorcerers. And like the scandal happens, and then she has to go live with a sorcerer, and she thinks they're like crazy and like gonna kill her. Not true, but that's what happened here, and they fall in love. I rated this 2 stars. Do you know you can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, and then they're just like whelmed, right? I was like, it was okay. I rated this 2 stars because I was just whelmed. I didn't care for the characters. It was fine. I mean, I say read it if you want to. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you don't read it because it's bad. It's not. I was just whelmed. I have nothing to say. There's this book a couple years ago. It was like I had a really strange synopsis and people were obsessed with it and they wanted to read it, and then I got it, and it was We Were Lies by E. Lockhart. It's about like this island of like, it's this island and things happen on the island. So this is a story about rich white people fighting for daddy's inheritance, and then people get hurt. 2 stars. I didn't care. I was like you're reading the whole thing, and then in the end you find out that's what they're fighting about and that's what happened, and like people had to pay for that shit. And I hate it when like siblings are like fighting and they have kids and they bring their kids into it, and I was just like, ew. I hated it. I didn't like it. I didn't care. I was like, when the reveal happened, I was like, okay, and am I supposed to like feel bad? At the point, I was like, ugh, y'all are rich. Fucking get out my face. Get a therapist. Kill the rich? No, I can't say that. But I can say this wasn't interesting. It was just okay. Okay, now I'm going into my 3 stars. I had a lot of 3 stars. Let me set them aside. So the next book I read, it was another Rainbow Raw book. I read another Rainbow Raw book, Eleanor and Pork, for that video I made. Rated this 3 stars. While I was reading it, there was like a lot of talks about like, there was like things in here. Cause I have this habit where I give books shit for like no matter the time period they're written in. This one was written like, this came out in 2013. It's about this girl named Eleanor and this other guy named Park. He's an Asian American. She's this new girl in town and she's like chaotic and weird, and her family's like kind of abusive. Her stepfather's abusive to her. It's about her like navigating to like a year of high school. Here's the thing with this book, I realized that this was set in the 1980s. When I was reading it, there was some things in here, right? There was some things in here that made me go, that's a bit weird. And it was some like fucking some Asian comments in here just made me uncomfortable, and I was like, well, it was written in the, I tried to rationalize it. I think I put in the video that I was like, oh, you know, it was written in 1986, so I can't hold it against it, because at the time people were less like knowledgeable on offensive terms for Asian people, but I'm not sure because I'm not from the 80s, so I don't know what the hell happened in the 80s. So that's like before my time. And then I did a little research online, and I realized I'm not the only one that noticed that this book has some weird ass fucking connotations of Asian people. That's a thing with like Rainbow Rowell. She can't write a book without being offensive. Mrs. Seisman would make a chubby girl read a poem about eating fries on her first day. What? Because she's chubby, she can't eat.
But you did this for what? Why not? Why? Why not? Why though?
Yes, they were having this conversation about like Sheridan knowing about Kung Fu, and then they're like, where the fuck does she know? They're like, well, his mom's Chinese. I'm like, okay, and just because I'm black doesn't mean I love watermelon. Like, don't assume just because he's black. I reading, I was like, that's kind of offensive. And the insta love in here was not it. They fell in love too quickly, and I was like, y'all are 16. Another book I read, again, it was another Rainbow Rowell book. I read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. It has the same name as a fan fiction that Kath wrote in Fangirl, but I don't think it's actual Shane fan fiction. It's about like Simon Snow and Baz. It's basically Harry Potter fan fiction. Everything about this is Harry Potter fan fiction. The director, Harry Potter. This is fucking Draco, and this is Harry. Now, they don't have the same hair color. You'd say, oh, no, that's not true. That's like Ron. No, that's Harry. You'd say like, oh, no, like, no. This is Draco and Harry. That's on period. Now, was it a good book? No. This is way to my 3-star pile. I rated it 3 stars, and I have a whole dissertation. Oh, I have emotions. So as you know, it's basically Harry Potter fan fiction. It wasn't very original. There's a lot of things in here. The amount of types in here and in Fangirl that I took of things in here that was very Harry Potter-esque. Sis ripped off a Harry Potter. And that's not to say like I support or want to protect J.K. Rowling, but also like try harder. I talked about this in my video, but I'm gonna go quickly over it. The only person I cared about here was Baz, and guess what? He was not the main character. Simon was. But that's still true with Harry Potter. I still only care about Draco Malfoy. Now, Baz comes in here at page 150, mind you. So this much of the book is going on, and you see how little tabs I have compared to this part where there's Baz. I shit you not, the only parts in this book that I tabbed were part with Baz in them. The romance in here was really fast. There was no natural progression. 1 minute Snow was looking at Baz's ass, the next minute they were kissing. Now before this, Snow had never said anything about it. The only people we knew that liked each other like was Baz, but like we know Baz is like a useless gay, so it was like, yes bitch, join the club. I didn't care for the chosen one trope, but I did like how it was achieved in the end. The only reason why I rated 3 stars is because of Baz. Baz is my fucking baby and I'll protect him. And no, I'm not reading the sequel because apparently it's bad. All right, another book I read was actually Harry Potter. Oh fucking god. I read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Here's the thing, this is my 3rd time reading this. The first time I read this, I rated this like 4 stars. Then I was like, wait a minute. Fat phobia in here? Islamophobia in here? No. And the series as a whole, I think there's like one or two black characters. And the only like Chinese person in here is called Cho Chang, and I was like, I cannot make this shit up. I only read this because of Draco, and I'm excited for book 2 because I didn't like book 2 to begin back then, but I don't know, I might like it more because it was a lot of like Draco trying to get Harry's attention. I feel like, yeah, I'll fuck with it. So this, I couldn't in a good heart rate this more than 3 stars because there's fat phobic jokes in here and Islamophobic jokes, and I didn't like that. The next book I read was Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. I rated this 3.75 stars. I read this because it was recommended to me by my friend. I liked it. It was a memoir, and here's one thing. I don't know if this is all memoirs because I don't usually read nonfiction, let alone memoirs. The only memoir I read was like Michelle Obama's book, but I think that's like a biography, whatever it was. I don't usually read nonfiction, and this is a memoir. I feel like a memoir should have like an overlining meaning, and this was just like storytelling, which I like, but there was no like underlining like lesson from this, but I didn't care for it. I might read this again because I feel like I maybe missed something, but I'll read this again if I need to. But I do say people should read this. It's very riveting. All right, so the next book I read, I've always wanted to read this. I read The Perks of Being a Wallflower, tabbed it hella bunch. Rated this 3 stars. It had some good quotes. Like, you know, there was a quote in here that said, it's on page 24. It says, we accept the love we think we deserve. And yeah, everyone says this, and like I say this sometimes, but like when they said it to me, and I was like, come for my throat, why don't you? There's a lot of playlists and annotations to books in here that I actually want to read because I'm really interested in knowing about them. So I'm gonna keep this aside and like figure it out. But like, this is about this boy named Charlie, and he's awkward, and he makes friends his first year of high school. He makes like lifetime friends, stuff like that. And this is really interesting. I rated it 3 stars. Why did I rate it 3 stars? Because I didn't care for the character, as always. And it was like depiction of like drug use and smoking. I think I went into this with a high expectation because people usually read this and are like, oh my god, this is a book like that turned my life around. I had like an epiphany. I had 3 children, and I was like, yes. My brain was like big galaxy brain. I was like, okay, yeah, he has good friends. I like that for him. I'm happy that he has actual friends, you know, not intersocial. So I was like, good for him. The next book I read is another booktuber's really popular book. It's science fiction. So I read Middle Game by Shauna McGuire. I know she wrote Wayward Children. I like her writing. This writing is like hella tiny. I had to use an audiobook because I tried reading this without the audiobook, and my brain was like, cannot compute. I read the same paragraph like 3 times, but when I followed along with the book and the audiobook, I really like it. It was good. I rated this 3 stars. It's about those kids named Roger and Dodger, and they're like made together. They're scientifically made, and they have like this special connection. It's about them. They're trying to keep them apart, but they keep coming back together, and it's like this whole thing. I can't explain you anything more because then it will ruin the book, so read it. I would definitely recommend this to people. Be really interesting. But this was wild. This was wild as fuck. This is wild. Shit happened. Again, when I read science fiction about like alternative universes and stuff like that, it just blows my mind. I'm like, oh my god, science that exists. But that's just because like I'm not a science nerd, even though I'd like to think that I'm into science, but I'm not. I don't go out and be like science. So this was interesting to me, but I still rated it 3 stars. Why? I don't know. It's because I didn't really care for the characters. 3.5 actually, because I didn't really care for the characters. All right, so another book that I read that was really popular last year is The Red, White, and Royal Blue. When reading this, I said I'm not gonna tab anything up because I'm trying to finish it. No, bitch, that's a lie. These are all the cute parts in here, right? It was very cute. I just make comments and snipey remarks. The different colors mean nothing. It just means I was running out of sticky tabs. I liked it, but it was like kind of politics. It had politics, and I didn't want politics. I just want boys falling in love. It's new adult, so there are some smut scenes in here, but it's like people say it was like Fade to Black. Like, no, it's not. It is not Fade to Black. You are taken through them, but it's not like explicit. It wasn't explicit. I didn't care for the politics in here, but it was really cute. I didn't rate it 4 stars because it's not anything memorable. I thought it was like gonna be a enemies to lover and like really angsty, but they got together by 40% through the book, which was less than halfway through. So I was like, where are the enemies to lovers and where's the angst? But yeah, this is a good book if you're just getting into enemies to lovers and like cute queer romance. Read this. It's good. You will like it. It's very cute and like wonderful, but it got cheesy, and there was like an outing, and I was like, I thought the outing was like handled very I think it was handled properly. Another book that I read was The Starless Sea by River Solomon. This was really good. I rated this 3 stars. No, I think I was more than that. Yes, I rated this 3.5 stars. This was a story with it's sci-fi. Again, I'm really liking sci-fi right now. It's sci-fi. It's about this girl. It's like on a spaceship, and this girl is like a surgeon's assistant, and it's about like the spaceship's trying to fall, and it's like blacks, African Americans. It talks about diversity. It had a lot of representation. It had a trans main character, was queer characters, was asexual characters. There's talks about politics. Hold on, I have all these tabs in here color coded for once, and each of them had something to do with it. So it talks about representation, comments about politics and stuff like that, and it had talks about slavery and things like that, which is really interesting. I really liked it. I say everyone should read this. Like, this was a really good book. People should read this. It's really interesting. The premise is really good, and I finished this in like a night. I've been doing that a lot. That's not, I don't know if it's a one sitting read, but I just had to finish it in a night. It was really good. I stayed up till 6 o'clock in the morning. This quarantine thing is really messing up with me, because even before the quarantine I used to stay up till 4 a.m. Now I don't have to go to work till like 3 o'clock. I'm staying up till 6 o'clock because I don't have class the next day. Of course I'm staying up till 6 a.m. What do you want me to do? Go to sleep at a proper time and have a proper sleep schedule? No. I'm gonna be reading 6 a.m. or going through TikTok. Here's the thing. Here's why I rated it 3.7 stars and not the whole 4 stars. Again, I like the diversity. I like the commentary that was made about politics and slavery, and the way the people that were slaves were like, the way it was justified. But I felt like there was a point where the plot wasn't moving. It was just like stale, right? It was doing the main characters just doing the same thing over and over again. I thought if it was like a revolt, I thought it'd be like more physical fights and just like beating people up just cause he wronged you. White supremacy and like slave revolt. No, wasn't that. That was like a comment where it's like the character was cured of their mental illness. It was very jarring because of the fact that this book is like very like open and talks about all these issues, and then you're talking about like curing mental illness. I was like, what? But yeah, I liked everything else about it. The plot was slow at some parts. It was less physical than I thought it was gonna be. I read My Sister's a Serial Killer by Oyinka Braithwaite. It's about this girl that her sister, Korode, her sister Ayula, have killed like 4 men at this point. And every time she has to go and clean up, Korode has this guy at her job that she has a crush on. Her sister comes in and he falls in love with her. And the guy, it's like they talk about like how superficial it is, and how her sister's like, oh, they only like me because of my looks, which I understand. It's very interesting. In the beginning it was like very lyrical and cute, and then halfway through it just got like annoying. I still enjoyed the beginning of it, and I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting premise, and the ending was interesting. I liked the ending, but I will read something else. I just felt like after the middle part it just got like less lyrical and more like storytelling, and I was like, I wanted lyrics. So I read Full Disclosure. I've been wanting to read this book since January, and I saw it on Goodreads, on Amazon. I was like, yes. The cover, beautiful, stunning work of art. And I liked all the diversity here. There wasn't like people that are villainized. I just loved it. I was like, the representation jumped out. It was very open about diversity, sexualities, sexual education, things like that. But I feel like sometimes it talks about sexual education was like very elementary. It was to talk about like kinks, and then because like, oh, like you shouldn't be kink shaming. I'm like, yeah, I know that. I just wish the author would have went more into it, but they didn't. But it's a really short book. I 100% recommend this. I wish this book was more popular, but I do like the light is shed on HIV people and humanizes HIV people, and because it's like it's not off that you see book about HIV positive people, and especially in the YA genre. So I really like how this talked about that subject. But I read Landline by Rainbow Rowell. Really liked it. Rated it 4 stars. Right, all right. There's some things I didn't like about it. Like after like page 100 it picks up, and I got really invested really fast in the story, and I don't know how. Okay, anyways, the things I did like, the plot was cute. It had me screeching. I was like, yes, protect Gina Alcott. So it's about this girl named Georgie, and her husband are having a hard marriage because she is like a workaholic, and it comes to Christmas time and they're supposed to go to Oklahoma. She is from Oklahoma. The dad is from Oklahoma, and they're supposed to go, but she can't go because she has this thing going on, and it's about like them talking through a landline, hence the title Landline. And it's really cute. I was like, yes, it wasn't angsty, it was just cute, and I enjoyed it. Here's the thing, this had jokes about eating disorders, right? They're like, oh, you're catching an eating disorder, no one in our family gets an eating disorder. I'm like, there's also a joke in here. There was this one black character, right? And the main character, Georgie, says, oh, her and her husband, I've talked about it in the past, that she's pretty sure, because the guy was dating her, Georgie's mother, she's pretty sure that they smoke weed. I'm like, is it because it's black? Because that sounds like a microaggression. Because mind you, that was never mentioned again. And that plot point did not help, nor hinder, nor change. It was brought out of nowhere. And I was like, why was that necessary? Who asked for this? Because I didn't. Who inquired? Who missed this? Because I did not. I was like, get y'all's mad. who's grandma? I felt like that was kind of disrespectful and rude, but that's just me. But I rated this 4 stars. The next book I read, that was very, as I said, these last couple books are like very diverse, so I love that for me. I read The Loves and Lives of Roxana Ali. I rated this 4 stars, and it's by Sabrina Khan. It's about this girl Roxana that she's from Bangladesh, and her mother finds out that she's gay and she has a girlfriend. Like this, there are things that annoyed me. Roxana hated her girlfriend. Her girlfriend completely used her friends, bad friends. Even though they talked about it in the end, they were bad friends. First off, they attempted to tell her to come out. They were like, you should come out because it's inconvenient to us that you are not out and you don't want to get outed and you're scared of your parents' reaction. The fact that her friends kept telling her to come out because it was inconvenient to her girlfriend, when they knew it cannot be safe for her, it can be dangerous, maybe deadly to her. Bad friends. Her girlfriend couldn't handle it. She was like, oh, I just felt like you're ashamed of me. I'm like, but you knew what the deal was coming in. Why are you acting all shocked and surprised? Because she told you she was out to her parents, and she was so angry. She was like, it's so inconvenient to me that you wouldn't be out and you know these things, and you're in Bangladesh unwillingly because your parents told you to. That's so real that you're not here with me. What about me and my emotions? It's not the fact that you're getting like a twin arranged marriage. No, what about me? How I feel. Even the last 4 to 7 chapters of this book, not necessary. It could have condensed down to 2 chapters, 2 to 3 chapters. She forgave her parents way too quickly. All right, so this book is by my main squeeze, Elizabeth Acevedo. Loved it. 4 stars. Love to see it. Love to see her prosper. It was written really well. I liked her writing. You could tell that she writes poetry. It's about this girl, Imani. She's a teenage mother, and it's about her going through her last year of high school while having a child and having to deal with like the father of her children, the father's family, and things like that. She was a very mature person. She was mature. She had autonomy over her own body and things like that, and I liked how she was very independent. She made sure that everyone understood what her stance was and what she said. She didn't go around what she said. She said it, and she said it. That's it. But here's the thing in here. The Elizabeth, I don't know why she felt this need, because there was a lot of like breasts I didn't know I was holding or like close enough to it, and I was like, this is Elizabeth Acevedo. Why is she talking about breasts she didn't know what she was holding? Like, you're a fucking wonderful author. Why are you falling into this trap? There was this character in here named Pretty's Leslie, and it felt like the name Pretty was used in a derogatory manner and as an insult to Pretty Leslie because she cared about her looks. Like, I get it, Imani. You're like all natural, mother, all this shit, but you don't get to shun other people because of the things that they like to do and they want to look pretty. Like, they had this trip to Paris, and Imani was like ridiculing her because she had 9 bags. I'm like, let her have 9 bags. Is it taking up your space? Is it taking up is it your airplane? Is it your car? No, then grab a seat. Like, mind your business. There's a whole part of here. It almost had this feel of like Imani wasn't like other girls. That trope, I hate that trope. And that was used as a way to show how different she was from Pretty Leslie. I'm like, I get it. You're like, if you don't care about like looking pretty and looking a certain type of way, that's completely fine. That's completely up to you. Do you. But what I don't appreciate is you belittling and attempt to shame others because of how they look. That's not okay. That's not how it works. You look how you want to look, great. That's fine. Love your body. Do you. But don't go around and she'll be saying, oh my gosh, she cares about her looks. How dare she? I'm better than her. No. Stop. You're just as bad. Not to say Pretty Leslie was bad, but I don't like how the name was Pretty Leslie was. That whole trait, I didn't like it. Okay, I read Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany Jackson. It's about this girl. Claudia is in middle school and her best friend Monday doesn't show up for the new year. It's about her trying to find Monday and trying to like bring her in. It's like, yo, Monday's not here and people aren't worried enough. This book was good. It's like a mystery. The last 70 pages of this was fucking wild. I did not see it coming. It was a mystery and it was done so beautifully. One thing I say about this is some parts of it was confusing. I listened to the audiobook and I was following along, and then there was some parts where they're like Journal, she's like, they're like before, after, and those parts in the beginning can be confusing because then you don't realize to the end what those were, and I feel like there could have been a better way to like make sure that the reader isn't confused. I also read Death of Field, which is the first book in the Last Chance series, and it's about this guy named Shane and this other guy named Van, and like Van used to bully Shane and when they were kids, and then Van comes back to the town after his father's death to help his mother like mourn and stuff, and then they end up falling in love, and then I rated it 2 stars. Here's the thing, it was written, you can tell with the smut scene, you can tell it was written by like straight, and it's like nothing, I don't hate on straight authors writing queer romance, but it makes me uncomfortable because the way that was used, there was like some like low-key misogynistic and like patriarchal like standards in there, and the word fingered is like he fingered his ring, he fingered his collar. You know, my dirty mind's like, stop, because my mind goes to the opposite direction. I was like, fingered, no. There was also the smut scene wasn't bad. It wasn't hot. The smut scene wasn't bad, but they weren't like good either. I was like, okay, it's smut. I ended up skipping them by like 50%. I just skipped, even like before 50, by like 45%. I just skipped all the smut scenes and I just didn't care. I was like, okay, then let me just get it over with. Why did I finish it? I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I got it for free on Kindle, so I read it. Thank you. Yeah, but that's like one. But that's one of the books that I read. Also, the characters are supposed to be 8th and 9th graders. They speak like full-grown adults, like grown women, like college, like senior year of high school, college kind of students, like out of high school, all these things. That's what they speak like. But again, I can't hold that mostly as a fault because it was warranted. I liked that they spoke this way. They didn't act like little fucking 2-year-olds, which I liked. And there's a reason they do that, but like that was one thing I noticed. They didn't act their age. The next book I read was Gemini. So this is the book that I was talking about. It had the range, it had the violence. It's the sequel to Illuminate, which is like right here, Illuminate. Even though there's like a middle book syndrome, it's not as good as the first one. Let me tell you, this was better than the first one. I rated this 4 stars. After page 200, flew. Like it's like I was like on like page 200. Next thing I knew, I was on page 500. I was like, huh? What? Where? Why? It flew by. I was like, I read like the majority of this book in one night. The slow pacing had me at first, but then it got really good. And it wasn't like it was slow pacing, it wasn't interesting. It was interesting, but it was just slow. But like once it hit that, when it started running, it ran with it, and I really liked that. So the next books that I gave 5 stars, these I gave 5 stars. These are like my last 4 books are 5 stars, but 3 of them are in the same series, and they are the Heartstopper trilogy. Of course it's the Heartstopper trilogy. I read these for a second time because this one came out and I ordered them in the mail and I read them because I have no self-control. So I read these. So the first one, second, and third. I rated all of them 5 stars. They're all my babies. I love them very much. They're so cute and I can't wait for any other. And this is like the prettiest books in my bookshelf right now. Don't tell my other books though. Now my absolute favorite book And this entire pile is this beast. I didn't think I'd like this to begin with because people talked about it and I thought I didn't have a high expectations. So the book I read is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I loved it here. It was really good. It was very well written. There's some things I want to read it again and tab it, but like also if I tab it, I will tab everything in here, every single page, so I'm not going to. I started reading it again right after, but then I stopped. I was like, wait, no, I have a TBR to stick to. Only I didn't have a TBR, but I'm not mad at it. I got the UK edition, the really pretty UK edition. Got that one. I'm gonna put it right here. It's really cute. Coming in the mail. Gonna be here soon. But anyways, I got this, and it's about this. It's really a lot of stories. It's about this boy named Zachary Ezra Rollins, and he finds this like strange universe, this strange place, and he like gets addicted to it and stuff like that. And there's like he gets addicted and there's different stories and it's really interesting. Here's the thing, there are some things in here that people say is like a bad thing, which I can see why it's a bad thing, but for me personally, I loved it. It's very like a ambiance heavy book. It's slow, and for like the first 200 pages, there's not really a plot, but the little stories in here and Dorian. The thing is, I enjoyed this so much that usually I'm a very picky person when it comes to plot and stuff like that. I really liked it. I didn't notice much with the plot until I was looking. I was like, oh yeah, that is something that the plot didn't start until like page 200. I can see why you would say that, and I can see why people say that it was like Zachary was like really like easily likable, but I liked it. I loved him. I protected him. I liked everything about this, and I really want to read it again. There was different stories, and I really liked the little short stories, but I loved it. So anyways, these are the books that I've read recently. I read 32 books in the past 2 months. Quarantine had me really here like, yeah, let's read, because you know, stress means I read more. So I really like that. I have more videos coming, but I've been in a slump and I just haven't been. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. You can stick around and watch some more if you want to. See you next time.